So, welcome back to the channel. I am out today in the very picturesque Borrowdale Valley, to say the least. Potentially the most beautiful of all the valleys in the Lake District. It's probably not my favourite, but that's only because I haven't really spent that much time here, which is mad, because it's a photographer's hotspot. So it's nice to be here. I'm heading up a fell. I'll turn around and show you it. I think he's, where's he at there? I think it's him. Castle Crag. It's actually the smallest of all the Wainwrights. Now, I'm not looking for a cop-out. I'm not trying to go up the smallest one because it's easy. I've come here for a very specific reason. If you're a photographer watching this and you know the Borrowdale Valley, you know where this is going. I'm here for autumn. It's a gorgeous wooded valley, surrounded by hills, obviously, because it's a valley. I don't know what's going on this year. I don't know what's going on. Where is autumn? Look at this. If somebody would have dumped me here and said, what's the date? I think I'd say like mid-September or something. It's mad. It's so green. So I guess it seems that autumn is quite late this year. There's one tree there I can see here somewhere that is looking quite autumnal. Madness. But this should be a cracker. Now look, I know what you're all thinking, alright? I know, after you've just seen that little bit of B-roll there, you're thinking, Henry, mate, come on now, what have you got on your feet? Get a look at them beauties. I feel like I should explain myself here, right? So my previous pair of Salomons, which I've still got, they're still fine, but they started leaking. So they're not fine really, are they? They started leaking, the waterproofing started failing on them. Now, with that particular pair of boots with Salomon, I've got a 2-year warranty. I'm only about a year into it. So I got in touch with them and said, what's the story? On a side note, the customer service was fantastic and they just gave me like a voucher for a new pair. So I thought, you know what? A nice free pair of boots. Let's get something a little bit jazzy. And it appears that I did get something pretty jazzy. I think I thought they were a little bit more of a, like a grey colour, but no, they're pretty white. So I'm just going to have to get used to them. But that's my explanation. That's my story. Yeah. So, today's adventure. As per the title of the video, these are my favourite types of landscape photography trips where there's no plan. That's what it is. I've just picked a fell. I haven't done it in a while. I haven't done any of these Wainwrights in a while. Not been here before. Don't know what to expect. I've barely checked the weather. And I'm just going to see what the afternoon brings. It's just carefree, you know. And throughout my whole photography career, whatever you want to call it, I want these to probably make up the majority of my photography trips if I can. Just because I get so much enjoyment out of them, you know. It's very childlike, the feeling. Out on an adventure, see what the day brings, that sort of thing. And that's the same for the photography as well. I mean, I know the geography of the area a little bit. I know we're going to get a nice view of Derwent water from the top. But other than that, I don't have a clue what I'm going to photograph. I'll tell you what I won't be photographing. Autumn. It's so bright. Can you even see my head there? It'll have to do. Look at that. I'm taking some handheld, Herdwick staring right at me there. I'm taking some handheld shots. Thing is, of course, we're in a valley. We're in autumn, or we should be in autumn. I've got a chip on my shoulder about that, haven't I? So we may not get any light for a good while, especially before we start ascending up towards Castle Crag. So I'm trying to make the most of this. I've got the 24 to 200mm lens on. I'm at 24mm, so I'm quite wide, but I'm just shooting directly into the sun. We've got a gorgeous path here with this like small sort of stone bridge or whatever, but the light, look at it, it's streaming down into these fields here, and we're getting loads of beautiful long shadows from the trees and that sort of thing. You can see it's fading now. Fortunately, I've already grabbed a couple of shots. But yeah, I think it's going to be lovely. And then right off in the background there, we've got like loads of rays of light, patches of light shining down onto the grass. It's absolutely gorgeous. In fact, I'll probably take a couple of shots now whilst it has dimmed down a bit, because it might be easier to expose for. With that being said, by the way, this is going to be one of them where I'm going to sort of leave that area that you can see there overexposed for one reason, and one reason only, because it is overexposed. You know, I'm trying to capture nature as I see it for the most part. You know, I don't want to bracket that 7 frames of bracketed shots and make sure that that's all darkened down, because that's not what's going on up there, you know. And this is one of those rare scenarios where I want to keep that overexposed. So what we're looking at for these shots, f11, ISO 64 and 1/400. I'm going to take a few more now and I'll show you my favourite. So the light is sticking around for now, so I want to make the most. I've only come a couple of minutes from where I grabbed them shots, but look at this. If you can see it, we've just got this beautiful, quite sort of pastoral scene, but that's what the Borrowdale Valley is about. You know, it's really agricultural around here, and that's its history as well. But yeah, looking back up there towards Seathwaite and Seathwaite Fell, absolutely beautiful, regardless of the lack of autumn colours. I can't believe I've said that again. Need to get over it. But yeah, I'm going to get set up here, and I'm thinking, I'm not 100% sure, I should never say this because then I get ideas in my head and feel like I've got to do them, but I'm thinking I might do like a really long exposure, smooth out the river here, and then capture some of the movement in the clouds up there, because it's those sorts of fluffy clouds that are moving fairly quick and with a decent shutter speed, you know, quite a long one. Capture some movement up there and get something a little bit different. Let's get set up. I keep getting dazzled every time I'm looking down at my shoes. They're blinding me. Right, we are set up. I need to keep an eye on this long exposure. So we've got the 15 stop NISI neutral density filter on the front, guys, a 9-minute exposure, and I've got 2.5 minutes left. So I can't stand here chatting for ages because I'm the type of person to forget and it'll be overexposed. So 15 stop ND on the front, and I've got my polarizer on a little bit just before we get into the composition. And the polarizer is helping just a little bit. It's helping with the blues in the sky, which I quite like, although I'll probably change that a little bit when I get it into Lightroom anyway, but we'll see. But what it's doing for the main part is getting rid of some of the glare in the foreground down here on the river, which is fantastic. Of course, a 9-minute long exposure here, guys. This is going to be like glass. We're still going to get some of the reflections of the fells around about here, so the polarizer's helping there. You know, it's not getting rid of too much of the glare. We're going to get some movement in those clouds as well, which is fantastic. It's exactly what I wanted from this photograph. So I'm zoomed in slightly to get into the composition at around about 40mm. Probably could shoot this really wide and it'd still look mega, you know, but I'm just tightening in the crop, really. I'm basically cropping live as I'm stood here, which is what I always do, you know. I'm looking at the scene and thinking, all right, I could shoot it wide, but let's do my crop now instead of doing it in Lightroom. And I'm thinking further into the Borrowdale Valley here, we've got Seathwaite Fell there. He's lighting up every now and again. Stunning. Further into the Borrowdale Valley is where all the beauty is at, you know, the drama, and this is what caught my eye in the first place. So that's all I'm doing, zooming in slightly to capture only that. What else? Oh, I'm at ISO 400 and f9. I've had to open up my aperture up slightly to make the image brighter, and I've had to increase the ISO up slightly to make the image brighter, and that's just so I'm not stood here for about 40 minutes for this long exposure. 9 minutes is going to be more than long enough to capture the movement in them clouds, I hope. And yeah, I'm using the, you know, the Nissi app, this one here, just to try and well, to calculate the exposure. There we go, you see it there. So what would have been 125th of a second as a normal exposure is now counting down for me down there, but it was about 9 minutes. Whoa, we've got about 20 seconds left. But yeah, the light's been changing across the scene as I've been stood here. I think it's going to be a cracker. Fingers crossed. I've just checked it there. It was overexposed. I have no idea how that's happened. I mean, it's obviously human error. It's obviously me being a wally. I must have got the shutter speed wrong before. You know, when you've got to calculate your shutter speed as if there's no neutral density filter on the front. You know, for me, it was coming up with 1/125th of a second. It must have been quicker than that. But anyway, I've overexposed it. I need to be shooting at around about 4 to 5 minutes. All the light's gone now, of course, but we're out here living the dream. I can't complain. Is what it is. So whatever you see now is going to be the second shot around about 4 or 5 minutes, but all the concepts are the same. Unfortunately, we're just going to have missed out on the light. Yes. So you know what I was just thinking then when I was packing up after taking that shot? Just about how much I enjoyed doing that. You know, I never, or very rarely do I use like my 15 stop neutral density filter, and my remote shutter, I just haven't really used it that much in ages, and I just enjoyed it so much. And making that little mistake there, obviously it's not a good thing, but it was such a positive feeling for me because it took me back to New Zealand when I was learning landscape photography and I was a beginner, and I just kept making mistakes all the time. But I was thinking it's quality, because that's what today's adventure is all about, and this video really as well is just, you know, no inhibitions, no worries or problems about making mistakes or anything like that with your photography. And yeah, I just thought that was absolutely fantastic, even though I made a bit of a wally of myself. But that was good. I think the image probably came out half decent anyway. So I want to make a little bit of progress now, up towards Castle Crag. Just noticed, look, there's a nice little scene here. We finally got a little bit of autumnal colour. Maybe the complaining has worked after all. No, probably not. But I'm going to pass it by because I need to get up towards Castle Crag. But as always, we'll see if there's anything to photograph en route. Probably a little bit more difficult than I expected, especially towards the end. But what a hike! And we have arrived. This is a memorial to a few gents of Borrowdale that died during the First World War, I think. So that's a nice touch. It's astonishing. It's wonderful for such a small fell, like the smallest of the Wainwrights. We've got this classic view down towards Derwentwater, back to Keswick. We've got Skiddaw, we can even see Blencathra as well. It is wonderful, and we're looking back over to the wooded fell that is King's How. Just stunning. This isn't a complaint, and I've been banging on about it, but in the midst of autumn, this will be absolutely class, because that will be a patchwork and a half. And then on this side, we're looking back west, which is where the sun is setting. Again, back deeper into the Borrowdale Valley, up towards Honister Pass as well. So with that being the direction that the sun's going down, I'm going to keep an eye on that sort of area as well. But we'll see. I definitely will be leaving with some sort of summit photograph. About 20 minutes till the sunset.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. All the good times just begun.
So, I haven't said this in a while for a sunset or a sunrise, but it's kicking off over Derwentwater, which is mental because that wasn't the direction that I thought the sun was setting. I think it's a mixture of me being a wally again and getting my directions wrong, because that is definitely not west, looking back up to Honister Pass. But I also think, you know, it's proper clouded over there, so we've been lucky. You know, I don't think it would normally really. You know what? I'm just gonna take it for what it is. I don't really know what's gone on with the sun. I didn't plan this trip, and that was the whole point of this adventure. But we've been gifted with a beautiful sunset, so I'm absolutely buzzing. It's also, by the way, about 10 minutes after the sunset, so that's another tip that you'll hear quite a lot, especially from me, you know. Sometimes the colours are nicer after the sunset. So we've got the 24-200 in at 50mm, beautiful vista of Derwentwater, Skiddaw, and then of course that candy floss sky. ISO 64, f11 and 2.5 seconds. It is quite dark. Just going to grab another one now with the 2-second timer on. Absolutely wonderful. I'm absolutely buzzing how this all worked out, because it's just a perfect example, isn't it, of how, you know, you don't plan, you come out and you just enjoy it, and these things just happen. To be fair, it wasn't really forecast. Well, you don't get a forecast for a nice sunset, but you know what I mean. I wouldn't have looked at the forecast for today at home and been like, oh, chance of a good sunset. So this might have been the sort of evening I might have skipped, because I thought, nah, no chance of a nice sunset. So it just shows you might as well just go out every day and hope for the best. Plus it's a lot more fun. That is the best part of landscape photography, that you never know what to expect. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'll leave you with this last photograph, and of course, thank you all so much for your support. It is massively appreciated. It is you that allows me to enjoy evenings like this, and I hope I give back with the content that I create. Thanks again. Subscribe if you're new. Give the video a thumbs up. Always helps me out, and I'll see you on the next adventure. From me and the Nick. Oh, the camera just ran out of battery. Out.